But let's see, Fizz, Azir taken away. Same as the previous game for SK. Rek'Sai Braum, same for Gamers 2.
So at this point, it's likely to be the Elise as the last ban, leaving the Lee Sin available, which SK won't first pick, I would imagine, knowing that the Gragas will be up as well. Okay, Kikis is a Lee Sin player as well. So either they'll go with just the same thing, which is what they do opt for, leaves the Elise as the first option. Sven had a great game, had the impact in the early game. No surprises on that first big Elise right there. I mean, I think this is the adaptation that Gamers 2 now make, is don't just first pick the Sivir here on their side. Maybe look for the Thresh, but don't all in on your bottom lane here. And don't look at a top pick, because you know Smitty J can counter any.
Blind pick the safe mid laner. Or jungle. I'm going to go for the Sivir again. Analyst was not a massive fan. We showed it didn't work early. I mean, Candy could just lock in the Corki again.
Yeah,
Noctiax performed exceptionally well on the Alistar this far. I'm a big fan of his engages and his knockups. He's finding the right times. So, Gamers 2, small change thus far.
And Candy Panda managed to get a lead in this lane before level 6. I think that's one of the most surprising things, is, you know, you expect it after level 6, but it's certainly the fact that, you know, Candy Panda getting a lead while Hybrid was roaming out of the lane was a big, big factor for the early game for SK at least. And as you alluded to, I don't think we can see anything different here.
No, not for SK. It worked. Try do it again.
So, is it the Kha'Zix here? Do they opt for something different? Do they look for one of Kik's other picks that are available? Does Kikis just go standard for the Gragas?
I prefer the Gragas. I think it offers more utility and more comeback mechanics, if we can use that term, because we saw that very late game flank of Kha'Zix not do anything in the previous matchup for Gamers 2. Despite being down 6k, 7k gold, we're waiting for that TP from the Maokai of Smitty J. Gangplank Orianna were the last two lock-ins for SK Gaming in the next rotation. What will it be for Gamers 2? Again, still no real changes, just the order. So counter pick is available for Smitty if he wants to run the Riven into whatever Freddy puts forward.
Yeah, and I feel like this kind of prevents G2 from going for something like a Riven. Not necessarily it's completely out of the question, but with no tank at all, it becomes a very risky playstyle to go for. Riven does shut Gangplank down heavily. Very, very heavily, and Riven will snowball and just kill anybody, really. So, I mean, the option is just to snowball the game faster than your opponents can hold on. Will SK go with the Gangplank pick, though? I mean, it worked out okay in the last game. Freddy actually put himself a little bit in a tough spot in the early game of Game 3, so we'll see whether he can do a better job this time around.
And also, whether or not Gamers 2 can find head-to-head lanes.
Yeah.
Because Riven will do significantly worse in a lane swap than a Gangplank.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, for SK, they are daring Gamers 2. They have Gangplank, they have Victor, they have another very well-rounded composition. We could see some interesting itemization from Freddy on that GP. For Gamers 2, couple picks. They have ran Malphite already.
Yeah, we saw the Malphite before. It would give them the good option with the Orianna. I mean, it's not the best of lanes against Gangplank, but it's also not the worst of lanes. It's not really going to crush him, but a lot of what Malphite offers when it comes to in-lane resistances with armor is kind of going to be negated later. It's, again, not a champion that is going to be able to stand up to the Gangplank directly late game, but this will provide faster, more reliable engage in the later game as well with the Orianna. This is what we saw in Game 2 out of Gamers 2.
And quite a change for G2. Smitty J not running a carry top laner at all this series.
Yeah.
We were expecting it, although our pregame was around how G2 were kind of like solo laners, you know, stylistically solo lane carries. Smitty J gonna play the slightly more simple option, and let's see. Malphite worked in Game 2 of this series. Malphite plus Orianna could be game-changing. We see the coaches Danush and Ocelot leaving the stage for what could be the last time in the first best of 5 here in the 2016 Spring Promotion Tournament. Gamers 2, 2-1 up over SK, and SK looking for a reverse sweep. It has to once again come from this Gangplank Elise combination that did so much work in the previous game.
Did very, very well. So if you think SK with Elise once again can take this to a game 5 and keep the reverse sweep alive, hashtag SK win. Or if you think Gamers 2 are going to unstoppable force their way into the LCS, hashtag G2 win if they are your choice to get into the 2016 spring split.
Yep, fan vote heavily in favor of Gamers 2 throughout the series. Now we will see if your faith has wavered. We're loading up on to the Rift for Game 4 in this best of 5. As a reminder, Gambit will take on Mouse Sports for the final spot in spring 2016 once this series wraps up. So there's plenty more league action to come. And once that gets closer to wrapping, the international wildcard will also wrap. Let's focus in on this game. Deep lane swap wards have been placed several times this series.
Yes.
And I think it's never more important. Well, Malphite will do okay, I guess, in a lane swap as well.
He doesn't particularly like it.
No.
He's not the biggest fan, but neither is Gangplank in the early game. I mean, he can farm here or there with Parlay, but it does slow him down considerably.
Let's see who's going to initiate the swap first. We can already see is that Noxiac and Candy Panda pulling in support of Sven in the bottom half of the map. One
thing that Freddy is making difficult for himself in these matchups when he's playing Gangplank is he's starting with Doran's Blade. If you look at SOAS games on Gangplank in the LCS finals, if you look at a lot of the other Gangplank games that have happened in LCK and LPL, typically Flask is what you start. It gives you the sustain through the not only health and mana, gives you the ability to stay alive in lane, because GP just needs to get to the later game. Like, you're not actually looking for lane pressure with Gangplank, because early game his barrels are too predictable and too long a cooldown to actually establish that safely. So Freddy has hamstringed himself. He flashed the wall in the previous game because he just didn't have the mana, didn't have the sustain available to follow up and catch the kill. Didn't end up getting anything from it.
No, not this time around. But let's see how the lane shakes out, because Freddy and Sven holding hands in the jungle. Lane swap has been initiated by Gamers 2. There's no information about crossing the ward, so SK fairly content to sit in this bottom half of the map. We will see the regular 3v0, and we need to see who's going to get the local gold from the tower and who's going to catch that wave, which is something that we continually evaluate as this sort of 3v0 lane swap meta has become far and away the standard.
Fox just got chunked heavily in the mid lane as well, so I wonder whether Sven will try and utilize the fact that Perks was pushed quite so far forward rather than look anywhere else. But you can see that both junglers are around, both here available for the gank or the counter gank should they be looking for it. And G2 actually get forced back away from the turret as SK are continuing their push on. It means that SK are slightly ahead when it comes to the tower health, by about 50% of what is remaining. So they will fall roughly the same time, but it's going to be a bit slower.
Let's see. Tower number 1 will fall in a second. It's Freddy and Candy that look to share this gold. Yep.
And it's actually Jesse that's staying for Gamers 2. Once again, this is the same as Game 1, where it was the lane swap into the 80 carry staying. Oh, I'm saying that Smitty J's just baiting me. Okay, Smitty J backed away. That may have been looking to just fake a little bit of information there. Fake SK out, but that was what happened in Game 1, was that Smitty J was not the one to collect the experience and
with
farm.
Smitty pushing so heavily, Candy may have the option to freeze this lane in a little while if he wants to. He continues to spam out those ground slams, trying to get it down. You can see Noxiac and Candy moving up to the top lane. You can also see down in the bottom, Jesse and Hybrid making their way to face off against the Saltwater Scourge. Pretty decent vision in the river and quite far up the lane, so Freddy's going to have all the information in the world to work with. And a fairly early pink ward in the middle lane. It looks like Perks just dropped that on the tip of the banana bush. We will take a glimpse in a little while, but that will also give some information, because in the previous game, there was repeated ganks in the mid lane from Sven on that Elise to try and get Fox ahead.
It's just on the safe side of just the river bush in mid. So it's hugging his lane, making sure that it's not exposed out in the open. So that is why the wards from SK in the banana bush are still alive. But G2 now looking for their push onto the turret, whereas over on the other side of the map, SK pushing up as well. A little bit slower on this one. 3 in the bottom lane. The Smitty J was there for G2, so they will get this one faster. And probably look to rotate for Dragon after it, actually.
Well, we should find out. I mean, Gamers2 initiated the lane swap. Gamers2, despite being a little late to taking that first tower, responded quickly, and they will get the second tower at an accelerated rate.
However, look at Sven's positioning in mid lane. If they can manage to get the gank off, he has flash available, could look to flash Cocoon depending on where it gets pushed up. He doesn't actually opt for it. Thinks twice because of that cleanse from Orianna.
And looking at it, Perk's flash is on cooldown as well.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing that being cast, so I'm not entirely sure when that happened. Let's take a look. Freddy's going to get the local gold with Candy in just a second here, sharing top tower 2-2. Dragon was also secured by Kick-S and the rest of Gamers too. So, 5-minute Dragon, 2 towers traded, even in gold. We have accelerated the objective race, the arms race, and we need to see who's going to come out ahead. Smitty J, a little bit of armor and some boots. Level 4 to the level 4 of Freddy, and we should see them eventually match up, but as it stands, again, lane shenanigans. Jesse's going top.
It's been a much more passive game than the last. At this point, Sven already had 2 kills under his belt and was being very aggressive into the enemy jungle. He has been able to put some wards down in the enemy jungle in this game, so this one's going to be a bit of a slower pace. We're going to have to see how Sven can deal with not quite being as fed this time around on the Elise, but certainly he showed us a fair amount of solid Elise play in the last game.
Yeah,
so,
good cocoons as well.
Yeah.
Finding targets multiple times.
Didn't ever find himself in much of a situation to dive, though, in the early game, which is typically what we will see from Elise. But honestly, the opportunity hasn't really presented itself all that much to Sven. Mid lane, maybe, but opted not to.
Yeah, you don't need to dive when the mid lane is just available for ganking.
yeah, exactly. If you can walk in, why go for it?
Exactly. And we did see 1 or 2 of those cocoons in the tower, but the cleanse from Perks was a big factor in getting away. Shockwave and Chaos Storm available for both respective mid laners. Perks again has built himself up a small CS lead. It was the ganks from the previous game that cost him that CS lead. But at least for the opening levels in the first few plays, Perks is looking good. Again, Candy Panda with that Phage versus the pickaxe longsword of Jesse. Gonna be a little while before BF sword is picked up, and I believe Perks also secured that blue buff. So jungle invade and steal. Gamers2 marginally ahead, and they've got the pushing lanes.
However, SK haven't really reached the situation that they're looking for. They haven't got their core itemization yet, so it makes it difficult for SK to do anything other than just sit back from it. They still need to get the Trinity forces up before they can ever look to group and engage. The most they could hope for is picks using the Victor and the Elise. But again, Victor has not been able to upgrade to that Mark II. It's still a little bit early. Everything right now, although it's going a slight way towards G2's favor, it's not a problem for SK right now. This is an acceptable position to be in for.
Yep, and the buff trade evened out. So Sven takes the blue. Keep in mind, though, it is denied from Fox because it was Perks that picked up SK's blue buff. There's no tower here and a very, very big minion wave. Maybe that tower dive that Elise is so good at could come up shortly.
This time, however, there is a Malphite around, not quite level 6. A couple of minions away, actually. So off this wave, Smitty J will get his ultimate and will deter a push here. No real chance of pushing into a Malphite with unstoppable force.
No, you don't want to risk that at all. SK will be content with the blue, will be content with the Grump, and then back away. And look at how Perks is just winning these trades. Attack and dissonance into the command protect. Comes away with a lot more HP than Fox. Noxiac with another roam, Moby Boots picked up, versus Hybrid's earlier Sightstone. Difference in approach.
Keep in mind, Perks is set on 2k gold as well. Neither of these mid laners is backed in a while. 2k to 1.5. So at this point, neither mid lane is really going to have the all-in a bit available to pick up a kill here. So it is just minor damage back and forth. Perk's going to be annoying. Stop Fox's recall, which is going to deter Fox, push him over to the other side of the lane because the rest of G2 are actually coming into the jungle. Fox moves forward.
But look at the, it's a pushing strategy from G2. They were pushing top lane, they were pushing bottom lane, now they're pushing mid. And with the reduced risk of an engage, there's no Gragas, multi-man body slam, or explosive cost. It's a single target cocoon. The biggest threat is, of course, the Alistar. So let's find out. Here's Noxiac, level 4. We're going to quickly look middle lane as Jesse pushing it in, and Noxiac...
Noxiac flashed. It's okay.
Yeah, he got chunked and flashed away. No big deal.
There he is. Just in the corner he is.
Although, we must mention this. Hold on a second, right? Despite the fact Smitty is down in CS, was down in CS, he's now evened out with Freddy. Noxiac is level 5 to the level 6 of Hybrid. He's been in lane with Jesse the entire time. And Gamers 2 are continuing to sort of play the map. Just one very small step ahead of SK Gaming.
Noxiac's a fair away from level 6 as well. Still got about 3/4 of a level to go. So that certainly is going to be problematic with this Dragon coming up in 45 seconds. He needs to absorb some experience from somewhere and absorb it extremely fast. He's got to sit mid lane here and try and get that level 6. So you can see Smitty J is recalling. What's he going to go back and pick up?
Just the Ninja Tabi and Bomby Cinder. So I'm going to try to reduce some of the trades that he's taking from Freddy. But yeah, good position. If Gamers 2 try to rush the Dragon, Noxiac will not have access to Unbreakable Will, so that is an important thing to note. But the problem is G2 are too split up. Smitty's not with the team, and Jesse's going to push that wave out, so it'll be a little period of time. Kikis finds Noxiac, chunks him out. Their sentence connects as well, but Hybrid doesn't follow through. Defensive flash from Kikis. Noxiac's going to peel backwards. Dragon is now live, and Smitty J has found Freddy in the top lane.
He's found him, and he's pushed him slightly back out of the lane, but Freddy is in a fine situation for himself. Is up in CS. Perks is going to throw out that ball to deter. Could look to just all in. Oh, no, just going to do enough to deter Svenskeren from pushing further, but that's a lot of damage before this Dragon spawns.
Defended the middle turret, cleared the wave out.
Candy knows what's up.
Yeah. When you've got that missile barrage, you should never be trying to. But now I wonder if that shockwave being down is going to hurt Perks. He used it to clear a wave. SK can take advantage of that fact. They've bought enough time for Noxiac to hit level 6. They're continuing the siege in the middle lane. Without the threat of a shockwave, that's a big component of Gamers 2 wombo combo that has been removed.
Yeah, it is a big component, and honestly, right now G2 are just sitting around on wards, or at least Kikis is walking over one and will remain on one. There's not a lot that really SK are going to do if G2 are all in vision. I mean, now that Smitty J has recalled, it is a possibility. He's got that home guard looking for the teleport with the unstoppable force. If he can get that, make the set play before Freddy122 can react, it's no reason why G2 can't start a fight, but SK will concede this Dragon. They know that it's not worth it over a potential second Dragon. Look at different objectives, play for the slightly later game.
Yeah, the theoretical cost of that play could have been too high.
Yeah.
Gamers 2 still have a very powerful engage with that Malphite Unstoppable Force, and there was waves pushing towards SK. Remember, the biggest threat is Alistar. When Alistar shows, Gamers 2 need to back away, and they do. They get the cannon barrage out of Freddy, and they get out without losing anything. You didn't get too many hits on that tower. It's down to about half HP. But the siege wars continue.
They do continue, and a lot of the wave clear on SK is going to make it difficult for Gamers 2. If SK get in a defensive position, they've got the Gangplank, they've got Victor, they've got Corki. All of these champions are just going to be able to melt the wave in front of them, especially now that Victor does have that cooldown boots. He'll be able to throw out that laser far more often. G2, however, will be content with the Dragon they just picked up and the ability to go back, so now they're just going to head back to their lanes, look to farm this one out, and look to reset.
And I actually feel the next Dragon is quite integral for Gamers 2 as well. The 5% movement speed on a comp that really wants to be moving at you, really wants to be getting around the barrels and dodging the cocoons, is actually very, very understated. So we'll see how much Gamers 2 commit to that Dragon. We're only 14 minutes in.
It feels later.
It does. That's what happens when we see 4 towers drop so quickly, and
Yeah.
you know, a really extended standoff around that Dragon Pit. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be the longest first blood of the series in this game,
Oh, yes.
with so much on the line.
Very tempered in this game. This is SK making sure they don't put a step wrong, and G2 not finding any mistakes from SK yet to punish. You can see now that Freddy has that Trinity Force, those ranged or caster minions just melt like butter in front of him.
Yeah, Candy Panda is also, he's got enough money to finish his Trinity Force as well. So for SK, that's at least 2 of their champions enabled. I mean, you could argue as well with the Lucidity Boots and the upgraded Hex. Even Fox is up there. So, in a good position. Noxia completed that Sightstone a little while ago, and has also been trending towards the Distortion Boots. But we'll break that down in a second. He's going to look for the solo play, finds Freddy, and they get the flash out of him. Cannon Barrage comes down as well. No summoners spent from Smitty and Kickers, so that's a good win. Problem is, there's support here for SK. Sven has stunned up Kickers. Those little spiderlings will reduce the damage from Taste of Fear. Defensive leap away. A defensive repel. Nobody goes down yet. Support from Gamers 2 was very late. If that fight had continued, Hybrid's not going to find the death sentence.
Yeah, both teams only had their jungler on their top laner around, and we'd already seen Freddy chunked out, forced to flash. In that situation, you could see Sven has a lot of damage from this Runeglaive, from the makings of the Haunting Guys, has just converted. But you can also see how much he takes in response to it, which that's the risk reward that you pay. Is if you can find a squishy target, chunk through them, take them out of the fight, it's fine. But the problem is, Sven being isolated means Kikis kind of just turns that back around on him and just eats half of his health bar and makes him think twice about it. Noxiek was around in the end, though, to tidy things up. But again, no kills.
Yeah,
in this
tension
game.
is growing. I mean, this is more than twice the amount of time it took from the previous First Blood. 8 minutes 20 was the longest we've had in this best of 5. You killed that Spiderling, Hybrid. Send that message. Dragon will be up in about 2.5, I think 3 minutes time. And Gamers 2 have had authority of the pit. They may have to yield that, considering the amount of AP and penetration that Sven has built and those 2 Triforces from SK. There's a lot more to worry about. One good keg. Assuming SK can set up the vision, and maybe even force Gamers 2 to face check them. Those powder kegs do a lot if you can force the team to come to you and you've prepped the area.
Freddy wants to stay top lane right now. You can see him recalling, but he's antsy about it, because the reason for this is he's at 470 Silver Serpents. He's 1 wave away from having that first upgrade, which will be crucial for the next team fight. But he can't afford to do it, because every time he stepped forward, Kikis has been there, and lo and behold, Kikis is top lane again. Freddy has to play this one very carefully, because all he wants is that CS from the wave. He does just get it and is over 500. Deep wards into the enemy jungle from Gamers 2 will spot out SK, and that means that Kikis and Smitty J will not go aggressive.
Yeah, the rest of Gamers 2, though, continue to push the lanes. Jesse shoved up bottom before Dragon has spawned this time. We saw in the mid lane, Perks and Hybrid, they shoved as well. Look, Hybrid with that Sightstone, placing some wards in SK's jungle. So if a Dragon battle were to begin, there's information on the side of Gamers 2. Going to be relying on Perks to wave clear. He cannot afford to shockwave the minion wave if he wants to win an ensuing team fight.
The problem is the ward positionings in the jungle don't really benefit a Dragon fight at this point. There's no real close teleport ward. There isn't one by the Wraiths or on the ramp. They're all far deeper into the enemy jungle, which isn't a problem. It just delays Smitty J getting into the fight. He has to predict that the fight is coming a couple of seconds earlier. That home guard will expire by the time he actually gets to the fight.
So, Dragon has been started already by Gamers 2. They are grouped. There is a home guard, Smitty J, with teleport available. And Fire at Will is the upgrade that Freddy has decided on. On the Hunt has been used by Jesse as the teleport completes. Here comes Smitty. He's found Fox. Chaos Storm is out. Candy Panda forced to flash away. He's in trouble. They traded 1-for-1. Mid laners are down. Sven Skeren again, not tanky enough. He's forced away. Noxiac's Unbreakable Will's keeping them busy. It's an even trade, but everybody is low. Gamers 2 lower than SK Gaming. And it's G2 that have to back away.
They have to concede this fight. Everybody is far too squishy at this point. Kikis is over the wall, but the rest of this fight is still going on. The Corky Poke is just going to be enough here. Kikis is going to look for the steal, but that's about it. That's his only hope here, is to leap in and try and get the smite from SK. He got it!
He steals it! Kikis shows up in the 4th game to steal Dragon number 3. That's the first time he has battled with Spin and won. Noxiac knocks Kikis up in the air. Kikis is going to be able to jump away, but he doesn't have the evolved leap. So shorter distance, gets the Dragon, gets the kill, gets out. Straight out of Challenger to LCS. That's where Kikis wants to lead, where he wants to lead Gamers 2.
Second time today we've seen Kikis escape from something with barely any life. You can see Smitty J had to make the long run down from the bottom side, but they catch both of the carries with the shockwave after Smitty J's unstoppable force. Barrels are just doing not a lot in this fight. Not enough levels into the barrels, not enough cooldown reduction from Freddy to actually be able to place barrels fast enough to make these fights work. And although SK that managed to take the fight because of the follow-up damage, G2 come out ahead because of the Dragon Steal. Third of the game.
Very important. 12-minute timer from that Dragon Steal to Aspect. But you could see it was actually quite a convincing teamfight win for SK. When you look at the alternate, despite trading 1-for-1,
one health.
Eventually gets it. But yeah, despite trading 1-for-1 in kills, the effective combat health from SK was significantly better. So Gamers 2 need to be a little more cautious. And Smitty, well, he basically said, Fox, I will kill you. Got him, but they had nothing else to do, unfortunately. Was unable to get more as Candy Panda put enough distance. So, as the game continues to progress, SK Gaming still extremely even with G2 in everything except Dragons. And with the fairly linear Dragon play, SK should be able to play around that. They should be able to anticipate G2. But they need setup. They need to get some vision. They need to get there earlier, not arrive late to the party and hope you can just outfight Gamers 2.
Very true, but SK also need to utilize this gangplank in another lane, which the reason they haven't been able to is because G2 have just punished it every time. They brought Kikis up there, made sure that Freddy was too afraid to actually farm. If SK can control the vision on the river, just the entrances to top lane, Freddy has the freedom then to keep going, because he's not going to be too worried about the Malphite. I mean, what's Malphite going to do? Wall in you and then wait 2 minutes before he can actually kill you, just running after you, trying to hit you, is he just eat oranges. But I mean, the other side of that is Freddy will just lay barrels out, take the wave away from in front of you, and ignore most of the armor that you've built.
Well, I think we have to also mention that Jesse is slowly growing in power, has that Infinity Edge, Avarice, and Vamp Scepter, still a while away from completing a big item, only sitting on 1600, so it'll be enough for Zeal, maybe enough for Shiv if he decides to go that route. Candy Panda working towards that Blade of the Ruined King, so Jesse's also going to be more relevant now that he's picked up some more items. Black Cleaver completed for Kikis. There you go, Shiv as well, so next fights, Jesse's going to be a threat, whereas Candy Panda had the advantage thanks to that, you know, Trinity Force versus non-completed components.
You can see a massive difference, though, that Sven not being fed has on the SK lineup and how they're playing in this game. They're not hyper-aggressive all of the time. Like the last game where, you know, they were making plays into the enemy jungle, they were getting themselves into the mix again and again. This time, they're a lot slower about it. They know that they have to be careful, and that is something that is going to make it difficult because there was a hook that just came out from Hybrid, latched onto Noxiac, forced out the ultimate. And SK still aren't tanky. Ooh, Sven's been hooked in this time.
He is. Cocoon did not find a target, nor did the Shockwave. But notice how different Gamers 2 play now that they understand the threat.
Yeah.
Alistar is the problem, and with no Unbreakable Will, Noxiac is less likely to jump in, so Gamers 2 say, we dare you to fight. And they sit in the front line. Let's see how long they commit to the siege. If anyone will be out of position. Teleport's available from both top laners. The Luden's Echo is going to help with wave clear here for Fox. That's a lot of wave clear.
Oh, yes. So much wave clear on SK. And Freddy finds himself down in the bottom lane once again. Just runs down there. Is going to contain Smitty J for now. There are wards set up for an engaged Smitty J. It does have flash. It does get over a wall and unstoppable force. So SK can't go too far forward. Smitty J's running up already. Freddy is not reacting to this. Here comes the ultimate from Sivir.
EUCS is going to find a small slow onto Fox. Smitty J. The threat is there. Once again, Hybrid sends a message to that Spiderling. 40 seconds until Dragon, and no on the hunt. That is an important cooldown. But Gamers 2, they are deciding to spend. They're deciding to go back and spend some of the money before the ensuing team fight. Frozen Heart completed for Smitty J, Sunfire Cape, Death Cap for Perks. How much money is SK sitting on? 1,300 for Candy Panda's Corki. He should pick up a Blade of the Ruined King. Sorry, I'm lying to you. He spent that to pick up the components of Blade. He's still 500 away from completing the item. But Eye-Edge, Lucidity Boots as well. So the arms race continues to grow.
A lot of tension building, and the play that G2 made just heading for mid lane, it's something that SK have to just completely concede every single time. Is there's a Malphite running at us, he has his ult, we have to back away. Every single time, because you can't bank on them missing the Malphite ultimate.
No.
That's a very dangerous game to play, is that, well, as long as our carries don't get hit, but, man, that damage.
And that's the risk. Now, what does the chunk on Sven Scare equate to? One Boomerang Blade. EUCS, he's got an isolated Candy Panda, and he's got a teleported giant piece of rock. The Shamrock comes in, and it finds the Earth Rider. A two-man Pulverize will buy time, but it will not buy enough. We do see a leap away from EUCS. Unbreakable Will was held on. Chaos Storm comes out, and it gets the flash from Perks. On the Hunt is out, and they're hunting for Noxiac's life. Unbreakable Will should buy time, flashes away from the death sentence, maybe even more valuable losing the flash than it was getting the kill. This should be Dragon number 4 for Gamers 2. If they are uncontested. Perks, Shockwave was used a little while ago. Does have Cleanse available, there's no mana on Fox and he doesn't need it. He sends a message and kills Perks 1v1.
1v1s him down, now has to run away, but the rest of the time, that was Dragon number 4. A fairly early Dragon number 4, but SK has been so good at not making a mistake up until this point in this game. And Candy Panda thought he was safe with Noxiac, doesn't flash the Unstoppable Force because he knows he's dead anyway. At this point, he is a goner. And then chooses to flash after.
Yep.
Should have flashed the Unstoppable Force. I mean, okay, it's a fairly reaction flash, but we've seen it. I mean, everybody knows the Wild Turtle flash.
Yep. Managed to... Actually, no. Didn't manage anything other than getting dropped, unfortunately. And SK are one Dragon away. Now, if anybody watched the Jet 22, there are a very few number of teams who've been able to beat teams that have got aspect of the Dragon. And a lot of it has to do with wave clear, buying time, and stalling for late game. Wave clear and the ability to buy time is something SK has plenty of. And they are still even in gold.
Yeah.
Yes, they could lose aspect, but it's 1,000 gold difference at 30 minutes. This could grow though. EUCS stood in a bush. Doesn't have a sweep or a pink ward. We'll find Freddy. Death Sentence doesn't connect. Hybrid, that's the shot you wanted to hit. But look how much damage Freddy takes. And that is the cannon barrage down. It's not down yet. If you look up on the top, you can see EUCS pulling away members of SK. Smitty J gets focused by Noxiac and Fox. The front line from Gamers 2 is down. And they get nothing in return. This is exactly what SK need to keep stalling, keep farming, keep their hopes alive.
And SK could have could have made more of that situation. You can see that Freddy, the barrel placement was just awkward. It just wasn't fluid like we've seen people, players that have played a whole lot of Gangplank. SOAS practiced it heavily for the finals. We've seen just mind-boggling things out of Gank by Mum out of the mid lane. I would just I like the pick. I like that SK are trying things, and it's not a bad pick whatsoever, but it's clear that there are just slight mechanics here that aren't as fluid as we used to from Freddy.
What I do like seeing from Gamers 2, Kikis's engages this time are much better. We will explore this idea later. Jesse showed bottom. He showed bottom to push the wave out. SK feel they are safe in this Baron call. There is a shockwave available from Perks, and we see the Unbreakable Force. The shockwave comes down. Baron secured by SK. Smitty J gets the Undead Force. They catch Candy Panda with a death sentence, and one more swing of the whip. They take him down. Freddy's out as well. Sven Skaren and Fox are all that stand. Sven is down 4 members. SK have not learned from their summer split mistakes. SK continue to lose in the late game, and Gamers 2, what can they get from this?
It's exactly what happened with SK in game 1 of this very series, was they make a decision to go for a Baron because they feel like they have the time, but there are so many people from Gamers 2 still around, and yes, they get the Baron, but they lose the fight. And if you only have Baron on your support, it's not going to be enough to properly utilize the buff in this kind of composition. They lose an inhibitor for it with Dragon 5 on the horizon. It boggles my mind as to why SK were just all in on the Dragon in a situation where they're fighting for their LCS career.
Well, let's see if Gamers 2 get punished. They did get the objective. They now have super minions to control the map, and they get out without losing anybody extra. It is 1,500 gold, but it is supers. It is the potential of aspects. And now it's up to Gamers 2. How do Gamers 2 close the game that books them into the LCS?
They haven't had to be the ones to close it because SK have just given basically this game to them on a silver platter. There was still the possibility of SK remaining in this game, but this fight was just so messy from SK. Yes, okay, Perks dies, there's a couple of kills here and there, but the decision that preludes all of this,
the call to go Baron,
is crazy. I mean, it's not like they have like a Callista. Okay, they have at least good single target damage. It's gonna work well, but you have to respect the enemies being alive.
And the thing is, it's one of those things where it's like the call can make or break the game.
Sure.
You win that Baron fight, or you get away, and you can push down waves exceptionally well and force a deciding game in the series. Unfortunately for SK, it is another time that you can question the call. Let's put it that way. Maybe the risky shot calling, something that needs to be revisited for SK. Fox is in that middle lane. Kikis is look, respect on the side lane. On the hunt is up. Everybody from Gamers 2 is there. Fox goes golden. That was a flash from Candy Pan. He gets away. This time Perks is in trouble. The shockwave didn't even finish the animation. And this is a bad fight. Gamers 2 make the same mistake they did earlier in the series. Kikis has found Fox, but it simply will not matter. Dragon's up in 20 seconds. 3 for 1. Gamers 2, you overcommitted for that fight. And this will give SK a chance. Kikis should be able to get away with this one. Laser's gonna burn him down. She turns back. This is gonna be cheeky. Gets spotted, and Candy gets the kill. Dragon number 1 should be on the platter for SK Gaming. And we're not done yet, Stress.
That's a much better fight for SK Gaming. Great bait when it comes to the Zhonya's, the Valkyrie, everything about avoiding the Malphite ultimate, and that is the double-edged sword that G2 have, is if their abilities don't connect. Jesse, if you get this. If Jesse can take this dragon just with a... Oh.
No, too early.
It was...
You had to try.
Credit for trying.
You had to try, but Dragon number 1, 6 minutes extra added to the clock. And a gold lead for SK Gaming now. They continue to grow in power. Last Whisper picked up for Freddy. Debate to your heart's content. Hourglass and Void Star for Fox.
They finally read, though, the unstoppable force, the positioning, the timing, and that is what just turns these fights on its head, is if it hits the carries, G2 win the fight. If it doesn't hit the carries, somehow SK, they still have a lot of damage. They're still able to take this game potentially, but man, they're making it very difficult for themselves. Just that Zhonya's Hourglass I was pretty happy to see out of Fox. Just instantly
And
hit.
the flash from Candy as well, that prevented a two-man knockup from Unstoppable Force. So SK, again, as we mentioned, still keeping it up there. Blue buff, I think that was stolen by Perks? No, Candy actually got it. Perks had his own. Shockwave is ready. Fox is down. Out of position. A death sentence from Hybrid. Does exactly as the name suggests. 5 on 4. They're now onto the inner turret top. Super minions pushing towards Freddy. But look at that wave clear. SK have to lean back on that wave clear to keep fighting.
But look how chunked G2 are. From that fire at will, from the Death's Daughter, it has really eaten through G2's health. And that's one benefit to the Last Whisper, is, okay, it doesn't really help your barrels too much, but it will help your ultimate a considerable amount.
Magic damage.
True.
Armor pen.
I forget it's
Sorry
magic
for calling
damage.
you out.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me out, Trevor.
But
Thank you.
everything else, the parlay, the auto attack,
Yeah, okay, you're right.
in the duel situation, if Kikis wants to go down that route, it will work out. But for Kikis and Gamers 2, they've got themselves a pick. They got themselves a kill onto Fox. Fox will have flash available in a couple of minutes' time. But it'll be too late for a Baron fight if anybody wants to rush it. Now, Gamers 2 have not tried to play around the Baron this series, really. They took it when it was available, but the focus was much more on Dragons. And is obviously showing through again as the 4-to-1 Dragon count shows.
Hex Drinker once again on Jesse, opting to try and stay safe. Not like we see very often on Sivir at all, to be honest, but
memory serves, the NALCS bought a bunch of Hex Drinkers as well. I think I remember Freak actually delivering a line saying, somehow we've gone to bed and come back and everyone is in love with Hex Drinker. I'll need to verify that. But let's jump back into game. Baron, as we've mentioned, up in 10 seconds. Pink ward in this river bush means Gamers 2. This is how Gamers 2 almost, or this is how they lost Aspect. By starting a team fight that then hurt them. Smitty J on the front line. He's got the stolen movement speed, chunking out Noxiac. We do see the Cocoon Connect as well. On the hunt has not been pulled, and Smitty gets a command protect. This is a very, very scary dance. There's a giant minion wave pushing on the bottom lane towards Gamers 2 base. This is going to be in favor of SK. Dragon's not up yet.
G2, however, did just kind of force SK out of mid lane. Remember that inhibitor is exposed from the play earlier at the Baron. Oh, SK!
That's a two-man knockup and Shockwave! Freddy flashed away from the Shockwave though, and all of the damage is coming out. Cannon Barrage and Chaos Storm. Smitty will be the first one to fall. Kikis will follow shortly. He manages to leap away and stay alive a few seconds longer. They try to top for support. Freddy gets hooked, but nobody can follow up. They've killed Jesse as well. They do see a kill back, at least from Perks and Candy. Looks like he's going to run him down. That rocket does not connect. 4 for 2. Command Protect comes out. The tech and dissonance not going to be enough. What can SK get? They win another team fight.
And they're looking for mid tower for it as well. They're looking to even up the exposed inhibitors. Still 35 seconds on most of Gamers 2. They should be able to push this one down with the Gangplank. Look for the inhibitor for themselves and then back away potentially for the Baron. It has not been their friend in this series, but this one would be a little bit safer than before.
It would be a little bit indeed. 20 seconds before everybody else is up for Gamers 2. And now Gamers 2 are 4,000 gold down. And they have to deal with super minions. The overconfident engage 10 minutes ago didn't work out. There's that team fight once more.
Yeah, again, it looks like a good setup for G2 with the ultimate combination. The problem is that it was onto the Gangplank, who's just going to get this massive heal and just run away afterwards. At that point, SK have so much damage with this late game. Just the Victor. The Corki even has a lot of damage. And a massive, massive barrel explosion makes the bug go splat, jumping into the fight. SK, they're still showing signs of life despite a couple of botched fights. They are still hanging in there.
Oh, they're beyond showing signs of life. They're now in control of the game. Team composition, I think, is incredibly effective as this game continues to play out. There's a Baron available, there'll be a Dragon in 20 seconds, and G2 have to deal with super minions in the middle lane. The last two Unstoppable Force Shockwaves have not won Gamers 2 the fights. On the condition it does not win them a fight again, I think we're going to game 5.
The problem is for SK now, what do you prioritize? Because you can't really prioritize the Baron. Not at this point without the wave pushing in. I think you just take the Dragon away from G2 here. You know that they can't really kill the Baron as fast as you can kill Dragon and get up to the Baron pit. And I don't think G2 can actually contest this Dragon. SK cannot concede enough, cannot concede a lot of the control around this Dragon pit though.
The only flash that is available on SK's side is with Spencer's Elise. There's no other flashes. Smitty, Kickers, they've got theirs up if they want to find a target. Dragon's been started, Hybrid got caught, Cannon Barrage is up, Perks is exhausted, the Shockwave will not deal the damage and he's already down before it can get secured. That's a good Unstoppable Force, but it's too little and too late. 3 members of Gamers 2 are down. Dragon number 2 goes to SK. And Kickers uses his flash to get away, not able to steal with those Void Spikes. SK, are they? They're looking to finish.
They're going to end. At this point, G2 were just too greedy looking for that 5th Dragon of the game, and it is going to cost them the game and take us to a game number 5 as SK are hanging on here just by their fingertips to stay in the LCS.
Unbelievable mental fortitude from SK Gaming. I had written them off after that Baron fight, but SK go 2-2. and force this series to go all the way. One more time, these teams have to adjust their picks and bans. You can see Candy Panda just there a moment ago, hand in his hand, head in his hands. This works the other way too, technically.
Whew. Some strange things going on here.
Heavy, heavy game, but well turned around. And Baron Call got punished by Gamers 2. The mid lane team fight, that was an overreach, it was an overcommit. That got punished by SK. And those two things determined the entire outcome of this game.
Yeah, I mean, just the impatience and some of the plays that we've seen in this series is deciding game by game. SK impatient in games 1 and 2 looking for the Baron. G2 impatient looking for picks in games 3 and 4, looking for that 5th Dragon of the game for themselves. I mean, realistically, G2 were on the back foot. They needed to try and do something to keep themselves in the game, to try and close this series out 3-1. The Dragon wasn't the option for them because there was no way they were going to kill it in time. But again, every time G2 are looking for an option, they all in on the option, and that's pretty much all that they can see. The blinkers are on. Yeah,
definitely the case. And I don't think Kickers helps seeing past the blinkers with a champion like Kha'Zix. You know, 2 games ago, we saw that flank go horribly wrong, didn't find targets. This game, the flanks were slightly more effective and maybe, you know, better timed. But you're so reliant on isolating somebody with that Kha'Zix or drawing enough attention that your Sivir and Orianna combination plus Malphite can kill carries. And when those things don't happen in the correct sequence or order, this slightly more well-rounded team comp from SK Gaming is going to prevail. And it did prevail.
And I think the other side of this is not only is it the Elise that's becoming problematic, Alistair for 4 games on Noxiac is providing good counter-engage. We're seeing good engages, good counter-engages, and it's making it difficult for G2 to make those kind of snap decisions.
It really, really is. Guys, we need to step away for a moment, but please do not go anywhere, because our next game will decide which team we'll see in the 2016 European LCS Spring Split. We're loading up onto the Rift for Game 4 in this best of 5.
That's his only hope here, is to leap in and try and get the smite from SK. He got it!
He steals it! Kicker shows up!
Go on them, go on them. Coming. I ult him, I ult him.
Go.
Fucking game flank.
I got him.
Game flank.
Inside the pit. I ult. Go. Yeah? Get this?
She's dead.
That's a 2-man knockup and Shockwave. Freddy flashed away from the Shockwave though, and all of the damage is coming out. Cannon Barrage and Chaos Storm. Smitty will be the first one to fall. Kickers will follow shortly.